Hi, it's Lacey. I thought I would add a little to my presentation for my project on Cocoliche and Lunfardo. So, um, I'll get the screen sharing going and see what we got. Okay, yeah, so Cocoliche and Lunfardo. Um, where is it? Here it is. All right, so it is the contact language of the Rio de la Plata Basin in Argentina and Uruguay, mostly going to be talking about Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina. And so I I did my presentation so quickly. I'll just review it a little bit by going over it a little more slowly, um, since that's my speed. But I've dug up a couple of video clips to add to this. So, yeah, starting in the late 1800s in Argentina, um, a country of only 1,800,000 people, um, it received 2,500,000 European immigrants in in the next 50 years. And by 1914, 1,000 immigrants a day were arriving in this port of Buenos Aires, right about here. And there were 4.5 million immigrants in the country by 1914, outnumbering Argentinians 2 to 1 in the Buenos Aires area. And Italians made up 55% of those immigrants. Okay, so um, they the Italians, so let's get a look at who came. So there was a mostly Italian immigrants, followed by the Spanish, and there were people from um, France, says Poland, Russia, Turkey. There were Germans. Um, there were people who spoke Yiddish, Greek, and Arabic, and also other languages that came. Um, in those years between the late 1800s and 1940s. Um, so, but the Cocoliche language was spoken by the Italian immigrants who came, and they came from um, areas of Italy that, let's get these slides going, um, that spoke different dialects around Italy that were not necessarily mutually intelligible. They had a lot of different dialects. In the north, there were in Venetian, Genoese, Piedmont, um, Lombardy, and in the south, there was also in the north is Tuscany, and in the south, there was Sicilian, Neapolitan, Calabrian, and so when they got to Argentina, they not only couldn't converse with the locals in Argentina, they couldn't really converse amongst themselves. So Cocoliche was born. And um, so yeah, they it's they didn't really speak it with the other immigrants. That's what I hear. I've been reading a lot of sources. So Cocoliche was mostly Italian and Spanish language mixed together, but it did have an infusion of international vocabulary words because they were in great contact with those other groups of international immigrants as they all lived in the poorer neighborhoods where immigrants were all living together. Okay, so the next slide I have says a pigeon was born, but there's a lot of dispute as to whether Cocoliche is really a pigeon, because although it is a contact language that emerged among immigrants and contained reduced grammar and a mixture of languages like a pigeon, um, its classification as a pigeon has been disputed because it never reached the degree of simplification as many pigeons do. Because it shares a lot of the grammar structures of Spanish and Italian because they're so similar. So that's where the debate is. But they were speaking it because they needed a way to communicate. So that's why it made the pigeon list. And but they didn't really go on to speak it for survival after the first generation arrived. There were a couple waves of people because the immigration came in waves, but the children of the immigrants were encouraged to learn Spanish, and they did when they went to school. The Cocoliche um, was kept alive in another way, but Cocoliche has been described as when an Italian immigrant speech reaches a certain level of linguistic confusion, and it is difficult to figure out the moment when they are speaking Spanishized Italian and what moment they are speaking Italianized Spanish. Um, so yeah, it's a mix. So even though the offspring went on to learn to speak Spanish, their Cocoliche stayed alive through, I think I mentioned here. Okay, so just the visual on how far Cocoliche was influential around the town of Buenos Aires is the port city. It was very, very prevalent, being spoken in the blue area, which was a large geographic space in the late 1800s. Um, and it was I I mentioned on the next slide, I think, how, and I said it was came to be associated with artists in the theater, which was sort of not completely forthtelling of what it encompassed. It was associated with artists and the theater. However, its origin, um, in that it was characterized, it became um, a caricature of the Italian immigrant. So not only was Cocoliche the name of the language, it was also a name of the stylization of the Italian immigrant, which was portrayed in a number of theatrical arts, such as circus, um, carnival, different ways it was portrayed on stage, comedy and plays. Um, and it was, Cocoliche was kept alive in a linguistic form well after the necessity of speaking it died out amongst the immigrants. It was kept alive on stage. And I'm going to translate a little clip I have on that I'll just read. So something emerged called mock Cocoliche, which was the theatrical form of it. So mock Cocoliche was born as sort of a Creole, um, and used by non-elite Argentinians. So it was sort of the lower class Argentinians that kept it alive in the theater to portray imitations of Argentine gauchos. So that was just something that I picked up. Um, and Cocoliche was named after um, an Italian immigrant named Antonio Cocoliche. He was a day laborer at a circus who got involved with an impromptu, improvisational um, conversation on stage. It was a verbal exchange, and his Italian accents and broken Spanish was overheard by the audience, and they busted out laughing in uproarious thrill and surprise. And it was made the show a huge success. And so that was where it really started becoming a part of performance and stayed alive for many performances to come and for years to come, and part of the art and creative culture in Argentina. And it was thought of as derogatory towards Italian immigrants, but sometimes applied affectionately. But it was a way the Italian immigrants sort of controlled their image, as well as a way that they were also um, controlled. So it was an interesting situation. And I'm going to translate a little of the clip that I have to show you about that. Let's see if I can just screen share it. Wouldn't that be great? Okay, let's see. Um, okay, here we go. And yeah, okay. So it might repeat a little of what I said, but I'm going to do this anyway. Here we go. Okay.
El
Oh, no,
cocoliche fue
no.
una variedad.
I don't want that woman talking while I'm going to talk. Okay, here we go. So Cocoliche, here we go. Cocoliche was a unstable contact language that um, arrived with the Italian immigrants. Well, when they arrived in the Rio de la Plata community, um, and the story goes, it came from um, an Italian surname and became a polysemic term that had a couple of meanings, but they were always derogatory. And the first was the meaning to characterize a way of speaking about immigrants and their origin and their education. And then it became a stereotype that was the way people imagined in their mind to highlight the vulgar habits of immigrants, and finally a term to describe anybody dressed up in colorful, precarious ways that were otherwise considered grotesque. In 1886, a newspaper called El Liberal published of a soap opera series of anonymously called The Love of Giac- Giacomino, and it was written in Cocoliche, even though Cocoliche didn't have a written form. This work was not only a parody of immigrants' way of speaking, it was also a satire of the stylistic form and culture of their communities. And it describes in detail and in the context and culture of the conflicts of living in a multilingualistic community. And the loves of Giacomina um, was the name of the play, and it became very popular. And through the years, all classes of people were influenced by the Italian flavor. I mean, there was more to it than a flavor. It was an impermeable um, force of the Rio de la Plata Spanish. And that's what some of the other clips I have will show you to move on. This woman is so interesting. She's speaking about the the play, but she's just amazing. I just want to play her for a second for you. Let's see what she's got to say.
La creta colorata è otra cosita redonda que en el corpo sobresalía. Allí no había engaño, era todo gordito y macizo. El día que Giacomina se paraba en la puerta de la fundita, caía lo marchante come mosca la surca. Ella se reía con todo.
Okay, I know that you don't speak Spanish, but she's so demonstrative and she speaks with a native Buenos Aires accent. But I have more to show you and I want to move on. So, where are we now? Okay. Whoa, where'd that go? Here we go. Let's go up here to something a little bit different. Got to do this. Um, so now I'd like to share something else, but all my things went away. Oh, that's not good. Hmm. But let me find them because I can do this. And I know you'll bear with me for just a moment because I've got to do this right now. Okay, good. So our second thing is let's see what uh, um okay, so then Lunfardo comes into it where am I still on this the horn here? Okay. Where's my face? Okay, so um when I go off of shit, well, you can hear me. That's the most important thing. Lunfardo comes into it where um it's kept alive. Cocoliche is kept alive in the modern day with lunfardo, and it's a slang that keeps many of the Cocoliche words alive, and it has the many clever forms um, that I talked about with. Let's go back to my my slideshow really quickly and see what we've got with lunfardo. Okay, so we had the endings, the backslang, where they changed the words, the order of the words, and they changed the endings of the words. Let's see, the endings of the word with Italian sounding suffixes, and then they insert similar words that sound similar, like changing the word suit for tragedy, just like the word for suit is traje, but they change it to tragedia, like he's wearing a tragedy. That's just so funny to me. There's so many, and they're just this is a language, it's an underworld language that started in the the kind of the underbelly of society among the less savory crowd and in prisons to sort of have a like a code language. Okay, so how much time do we have? I guess as long as you watch it. Okay, here we go. I'd like to share something that kind of talks about let's go with this girl. She's a girl. She's a young woman. She's going to talk a little bit about Argentinian slang. Okay.
We have not only our accent, we have a slang that we call lunfardo. And let me tell you this, if you're planning to come to Argentina soon, then you should definitely watch this video and even take some notes. So here we go. Okay, the very first thing I want to say is the way we pronounce the Y and the double L because everybody makes fun of us for that. Okay, we pronounce the Y and the double L like an SH, like sh. For example, if I want to say my name is Nair, any Latin person will say yo me llamo Nair. But here in Argentina, we say yo me llamo. Yeah, I know it sounds funny, but that's the way we speak. That's totally normal for us. So, yo me llamo. Second characteristic we have, we totally change the second personal pronoun. We don't say tú, we say vos, and we don't say eres. We say sos. I know it's totally different, but that's the way we speak. So instead of saying tú eres, we say vos sos. For example, tú eres mi mejor amiga. No, we say vos sos mi mejor amiga. So this takes us to the third grammar rule that we have, that if we change the personal pronoun, of course we're going to change the ending of the verbs. Yeah. Talking about the way we end the verbs, I have bad news because we don't necessarily have a rule on how to change verbs to make them Argentinian slang. You just have to learn them by heart, I guess. For instance, if I say tú quieres, which is the normal Spanish way, we will say vos querés. So if you take a look at that, it's like we omit the I and we put an accent at the final in the final E. And we change, of course, the tú for vos. So we say vos querés. And you're going to realize that we always put the accent of the verbs at the end, which makes it sound kind of imperative way, like vos querés instead. You just learn it by using them and hearing them all the time. So, leaving behind the grammar rules, let's talk about some of the verbs that we created, some of the lunfardo words that we came up with from transforming Italian words or French words. And some of the verbs that we created, let's say, are, for instance, laburar, which comes from the verb lavorare, which is Italian, and that means work, to work. Garpar. Garpar means to pay. Let's say you go to a restaurant and you have to garpar a lot of money to pay. Another word, morfar. Morfar means to eat. It's supposed to come from the slang word morfer, which is French. It can mean that. It can come from that, I mean, but I don't know. Safar. Safar means to get out of a situation in a good way. Like, I don't know if I will make it out. Like, no sé si voy a zafar from this, de esta. You will get to use it someday maybe, or like, let's say you see somebody trying to rob you and you start running and you get away from it. So I say, oof, safe, okay? And it's kind of weird word, but we use it a lot. Another word we have is bancar. Bancar, I want to show you first that I have a notebook because there's so many that I don't even realize are Argentinian, so I had to take note of them. Number one, buchon. Buchon is somebody, that could be translated as a snitch or informer of the law. We will say like gossip, like you cannot tell a secret to the person because you know that person is gonna go tell somebody else. That's a buchon. Fiaca. Fiaca. What the hell is fiaca? Fiaca means laziness. Like, let's say it's Sunday, like today it's Sunday actually, and I say, oh, tengo una fiaca. Like, I have a laziness, but like, I'm so lazy to, like, tengo una fiaca hoy. That's what fiaca means.
Okay. Thank you for that. And what's next? Okay, so moving on. We don't know how long this has been going or how long we have. There is just, oh yeah, so let's move on to this other video I have that has, where am I? Let's go on to me. And then I can see. Um, this video is a little bit informative. Yeah, I think I'd like to actually show this one first, though, very quickly. Let's see if it can start here.
Occurred in 1953 with the publication of the book Capital of the Argentine Republic. From melancholic tangos to street conversations, Lunfardo has woven its presence in the urban landscape of Buenos Aires, becoming a symbol of its culture.
Hasta el grilo chiquilín me bate fallo. Después de esta carrera no me queda ni fuerzas para alentarte, mi caballo.
Please do not leave, wait, and listen to learn more about Lunfardo in this informative new video from Prime Group. Hello, I am Constantino de Miguel. Welcome. Currents that arrived in Argentina at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. In the tenements, immigrants from different regions of northern Italy and Spain mixed, resulting in a requirement for communication that gave rise to this distinctive dialect. However, its consecration as a linguistic phenomenon occurred in 1953 with the publication of the book Lunfardia by the Argentine writer Jose Gobello. The term Lunfardo finds its origins in the demonym of Lombardy, a region in Italy. One might think we are referring to the region of Lombardy in northern Italy, but that's not the case. Lombardo is also linked in the past with activities that are considered dishonorable. However, Lunfardo has emerged as a vital element in the identity of Buenos Aires, permeating music, theater, and everyday life. From terms such as paibe and mina to expressions such as chamullo and laburo, Lunfardo enhances the popular speech of Argentina with its wit and liveliness.
Okay. And where am I? Oh, there I am. Okay. And then one last video I'd like to show you, because it is interesting, and it's about Italian inflection. I think that's just one last video, and it just kind of rounds it out. Yeah, let's see if I can do this. Thanks for bearing with me. And actually, you'll hear her speaking in Spanish, but there is English subtitles. There are English subtitles. And let's do this. Oh, my, I've lost it again. At least I'm learning how to screen share, if nothing else. That's a good thing. Oh, and he's back. Oh, what am I learning? Okay, here we go. So I think we're over here. Yeah, there's actually two videos by the same person, and one I won't show you because there's no subtitles, but let's do this one. Okay. Oh, can I share it is what I want to know. Yes. Let's see. Let's go with this. We'll watch for a little while.
Porque lo que tú llamas argentino en realidad es el español rioplatense, que también es la variedad que tienen los uruguayos y no son argentinos.
Oh, where'd it go? Why did it stop? Don't stop.
Y además no en toda Argentina hablan igual. Bueno, ¿y por qué el argentino es como es? ¿Por qué tiene ese acento? Pero cuando dices acento, ¿a qué te refieres? A la variedad lingüística, con su fonética, morfología, léxico, semántica y sintaxis local. ¿O te refieres a los rasgos prosódicos? O sea, la entonación, la intensidad, la melodía. Eso, la entonación, la melodía, la musicalidad. Bueno, pues esto parece tener una clara influencia que a nadie le va a sorprender. El italiano. Ya lo sabía. Bueno, tampoco vayas tan de pedante porque no es lo que tú crees. ¿Por qué no? Pues porque sí, evidentemente toda la inmigración italiana que llegó a Argentina a finales del siglo XIX y principios del siglo XX tuvo que influir. Pero cuando decimos influencia del italiano, pensamos en el italiano actual. Y piensa que de los 3 millones de italianos que llegaron, probablemente nadie hablaría italiano. Eran todos pobres y el italiano en ese momento lo hablaba muy poca gente. Ellos hablaban sus lenguas regionales, con sus diferentes acentos cada uno. Eso sí, la mayoría eran del sur de Italia. La mayoría, pero no todos. Hubo un gran número también de Génova, que está al norte. O sea que las lenguas que hablaban debían ser napolitano y siciliano principalmente. A esto súmale también la inmigración española, más concretamente de Galicia, que también fue muy fuerte, y ya en menor grado la de Alemania y de otras partes de Europa. Ya en los años 60, la lingüista Vidal de Battini decía que Buenos Aires habla español con entonación italiana. Esta influencia italiana puede ser consecuencia de una convergencia, o sea, dos variedades que se acercan la una a la otra, o de interferencia, como cuando aprendemos una segunda lengua y la lengua materna influye en esa segunda lengua que aprendemos. Sea como fuere, qué bonito ese futuro de subjuntivo. El resultado sería el mismo, la entonación rioplatense. Es probable que esta entonación, ahora tan reconocible, surgiera a principios del siglo XX en las clases populares y se fuera expandiendo a las clases sociales más altas. Y sabemos que debió ocurrir a principios del siglo XX porque una lingüista hizo una comparación entre la entonación de los jóvenes en 1983 y 2008 y no observó cambios sustanciales. Además, Battini decía que en los 60 ya teníamos esa entonación italiana, así que se puede concluir que ese acento surgió a principios del siglo XX. Recordad que la inmigración italiana llegó a finales del siglo XIX y principios del siglo XX, así que es lógico pensar que ese acento tardará una generación en cuajar, digamos. Vale, me queda claro el origen entonces. Pero de...
Okay, so she's saying that they did an experiment between 1983 and 2008, and they said that the Italian accent in Rio Platense Spanish is set. It's no longer accelerating, but it's there. Okay. And all right, so they it's interesting, but they can sure turn it on. They can sure turn the Italian accent on. So this seems pretty mild. This seems pretty Spanishy, or maybe I've just watched so many of these videos, I'm understanding it. Yeah, this same woman is in this other video, and she's really going for it, but I won't bore you with more. I just wanted to share a little more about Cocoliche and Lunfardo since I had to. But yeah, I really enjoyed learning more about this, and was sort of an interesting contact language, because the people came to the area voluntarily, um, and um, and then were not necessarily oppressed, and they were able to learn the native language of the area pretty quickly. But it's interesting how it made such a lasting impact, that the Italian made such a lasting impact, and it's alive today. So yeah, I'll just end with this. It's sort of a comical skit, but they really turn it on. They're pretend it's in Spanish, so but they're pretending. I don't know what they're pretending, but you can watch it. Let's do it.
Acá que tengo. Me acosté a las 3 de la mañana.
They're pretending to work in a hotel.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Bancame. Qué quilombo, no se puede laburar así. Coño.
¿Te dicen algo? No sé. ¿Pero es el hotel de Buenos Aires o has llamado a otro país? ¿Hola? ¿A dónde estoy llamando?
¿Hotel La Gauchada?
¿Pero en Buenos Aires?
Sí.
Bueno, me gustaría reservar una habitación para 2 personas.
Grosso.
¿Tienen disponibles?
Minuto. Che, vos que estás en barrio. Pregunta si hay habitaciones. ¿Queda alguna catrera? ¿De dónde llama? ¿Dónde llama?
De España.
Minuto. ¿De España? ¡Ah, esa garpa en euros! Sí, pidámosle mucha guita. Espera que me la chamullo un poquito antes. ¿Hola? No, le cuento, el hotel este es bien fachero.
They're showing the
que son
Italian
fachas.
woods
Acá
in,
no, no,
in
no,
the
no hay
hotel.
choreos, tiene boliches cerca, puede comprarse buenas pilchas, también se puede tomar una buena birra, hay lindos lugares, si le gusta el escolazo, tiene uno por acá cerca. No, la gente se va chocha de acá, ¿qué quiere que le
¿Qué
diga?
hablan tanto? Es que no la entiendo. Dice que cuando la gente se va del hotel, que se van chochos. ¿Chocha? No sé, ¿será que cuando sales del hotel sales loca? Bueno, a ver, ¿cuánto cobran? Si es barato. Ujú, vale, ¿y cuánto cuesta la noche?
Minuto, es medio fifí esta. Le hacemos
So she
7
really
euros la noche,
turned
¿no?
on her
7 euros, más,
Italian
Nico.
for the foreigner.
Sí. Mire, está hasta las manos el hotel. Yo no la estoy volaseando, estamos muy bien ubicados. Y qué sé yo, le puedo hacer. Está muy a full esto, está muy a full. Le puedo hacer
¿Qué dice?
10 euros la cheno y si viene con un chongo, lo dejamos en 15.
No sé qué de un chongo. Yo creo que son 10 euros la noche. Hostia, qué barato, dile que sí.
Okay. I could go on and on and on because she shows a whole bunch of other fascinating stuff, but maybe that's for another time. Yeah. Let's see. Let me get out of here and um I really appreciate you listening and indulging me, or maybe you've just fast forwarded and who knows? It's whatever you got out of it, but it's whatever I got out of it, and I got a lot out of it. So I thank you so much for your class this semester. I got a lot out of it. And once again, um, linguistics is the bomb, baby. All right. Thank you so much.